He's a master of the thriller with the twist in its tale. Harlan Coben is the New York Times best-selling author whose fans extend across the globe. His work's been adapted for the cinema and the small screen without neglecting his readers. Coben's output rarely falls below one book every year. We sat down with the prolific author to talk about success, suburbia, and suspense. Harlan Coben, thanks so much for joining us on France 24.
Thanks.
Now, your recent novel, The Stranger, or Intimidation in its French title, is set in the suburbs. What is it about the dark side of the suburbs that inspires you?
Well, I've always loved it, especially, that's the American dream, is to get married, move to the suburbs, have 2 kids, picket fence, and where dreams come true, they can often darken into a nightmare. And so I love to play with that. That's sort of my milieu quite frequently. I really love that area.
And you yourself live in the suburbs of New Jersey with your family. How do you think that affects your work?
I think it must work like therapy, because in real life I'm not that scared of things. So maybe I get it all out in the books. Maybe, I don't know, I haven't figured it out yet. But yeah, it's part of also what I know. I don't necessarily believe you have to write what you know, but this is where I live, so it's easier for me to do the research, being that I'm right there.
Your books are translated into dozens of different languages, read all around the world. What do you think is the universal appeal of these thrillers?
I think it's the people. I mean, I think, it's one thing to have a fast-moving plot, and I hope I do. And the book turns and twists, and the nickname here is the Master of the White Knight or something like that, where I want to keep you up, I want you to take the book. But if you don't have characters you care about, if you don't love that person and that lead character, it's not going to work. So I'm hoping, it's so hard to talk about your own work this way, but I hope it's the combination of the fast-moving plot and a character you really care for.
Now, this novel features a revelation from someone's past life. Your books often delve into the past of certain characters. Why is the past so present in your novels?
Because it never leaves you. I mean, it's what really kind of makes you. But in this case, I had stumbled across a site that helped women fake pregnancies. It was real. It's the site I did not make up in this book. I'm like, that's so bizarre and disturbed. And then I thought, well, what if? What if my hero finds out right away that his wife did this to him? There's sort of the start. I start with always a what if, and then I just keep working it. What else can I do with this story? And that's how a book usually starts to form.
And as you say, there's a revelation in this book that is in some way because of the internet. What do you think about the idea that in this day and age we can perhaps erase our digital traces online? Do you think we can really hide our darkest secrets?
No, we can't. I mean, it's actually the opposite. In the past, you could. If you had papers, you could burn them. Telephone calls weren't taped or anything like that. Now, everything. I mean, that's the problem, as you can see everywhere. Everything is kept online, so you have absolutely no secrets.
Now, speaking of that, since 1984 from George Orwell, both readers and writers have been fascinated by the idea of surveillance. What is it about this modern facet of modern life that fascinates you?
It's huge because, as we go through this very strange election in my country right now, democracy and freedom is not necessarily a given, so you've got to be really, really careful with anything that can hint at fascism or surveillance or any of that. So as a fiction writer, it's just a ripe arena to write about, and something that I think my generation is starting to take a little bit for granted. That you always thought your country was secure and everything would be fine, and America was always going to be, as was France, was always going to be, at least, you may go right, you may go left, but at least democracy was safe. And now, I don't know, it's not quite as safe as it was 5 or 10 years ago. So the surveillance thing is always troubling, but more important for me, in a sense, it's also what we live in. It's interesting. So if I was to write a book and a person didn't have a cell phone or he didn't have a computer, it would just be unrealistic. It's the world we live in. If you go on a date with somebody, you're going to Google their name. You're going to. Everybody does. So to pretend that doesn't happen wouldn't be realistic.
You're extremely popular here in France. The first film adaptation of one of your books was, in fact, Ne le dis à personne, or Tell No One, which was a huge critical and commercial success here in France. Why do you think the French public have such an appetite for your books?
Why do you think they're smart? I don't know. It's been a wonderful relationship. I think it's that combination that the French especially love the heart. They're people who feel, and they're passionate people, and I always joke that when I'm in Paris, the cheese tastes better, the wine tastes better, the lovemaking is better. Everything is better here. The emotions are really raised to a fevered pitch, which is why also when you have tragedy here that you hurt more. You can't have an up without a down, you can't have a good without a bad, and so you can't feel as much and joy. You can't have that much kind of joy without also having some degree of sorrow. And I hope that my books have that same sort of intensity. It's not just, again, a story of a person in a murder mystery and that sort of thing. If you don't worry about, in the case of Tell No One, if Francois Cluzet gets back together with Marie-Jo Croce, then the story's over.
Now, an earlier book of yours, Just One Look, has been adapted for French television with actress Virginie Ledoyen playing the protagonist who discovers something about a false identity of her partner. How much input do you have on these adaptations? Do you like to be involved?
Completely. With both this one and No Second Chance with Alexandra Lamy last year, I'm here on set, we started filming, and I try not to. I try to just let them do what they're supposed to do. But I get very heavily involved in the adaptations because I want them to be as good as humanly possible. My name is still on them. So I haven't yet learned how to just sell it and let it go. Hopefully, but not yet, so.
And another project of yours for the small screen is in collaboration with British television, The Five.
Yeah.
Now that's an original creation, it's not adapted from a novel.
Yeah.
How is the writing process different for you when writing for the small screen?
It's, everything has been more visual. But it's been really fun. I mean, I've written 30 novels. And so that's a lot of time sitting alone in a room by myself. And it's been fun to be able to work with really, both here in France and in England, to work with super talented people. In the case of a book adaptation, they sort of have a Bible they can work with. It's the actual book. In the case when I come up with an original idea, I'm the Bible. So they have to kind of come to me for what the story is. And then we do hire other writers to help work with actual screenplays, because it would be too much to try to write all of that and still write the books.
Now, your books are known for their twist in the end. It's the hallmark of a very good thriller, I think. How do you plot that out? Very carefully?
I know, but when I start a book, I usually know the beginning and I know the end. I don't know too much in between. I compare it to traveling from my home state of New Jersey across the United States to California. I may go Route 80, which is direct route, or I may go via the Suez Canal or stop in Tokyo, but I always end up in California. When I start a book, when I started The Stranger, I knew the beginning and I knew that twist ending. I knew how it was going to end. Sometimes it may change a little bit, but not much. And that helps. So if I'm traveling, I can at least see wherever I go where that ending is.
You're a very prolific writer. Do you have a strict writing schedule? Do you have a strict routine?
I don't. My routine is not to have a routine. I think I'm the only writer I know who at least says that. I'm sure other writers do it. So I don't have one space in my house. I don't have a certain time. I do whatever works until it stops working.
Now, your writing career started very young and very well. Your first novel published when you were only in your 20s, and you quickly became this accolade, the New York Times bestselling author. Was that always your plan from childhood?
No. Sometime in my 20s, early 20s, I guess I was probably about 20 or 21, I had an idea for a book that I wanted to write. And I just did. I never took a writing class. I never studied it. I didn't go to have an MFA or any of that. I just sat down one day and I wrote this entire novel when I was 20 years old, and it was a terrible novel. It was horrible. But from that I got the writing bug, and I started to write more what I love, which is what I call the novel of immersion. The book you take on vacation to Saint-Tropez or wherever, but you don't want to leave your hotel room because you have to know what happened. So it was just really the way I learned to write was to write bad novels until I got better at it. Like most things in life, if you practice shooting foul shots in basketball, you'll get better at it. People seem to think writing should be different than that, that you should be able to just do it the first time and not have any learning curve, and of course that's not the case.
Now, I always see people reading your books on public transport, often one or two people in the same carriage. Who would be the one person, living or dead, who you'd be delighted to see reading your book in the street?
Oh my goodness. Wow. Living or dead, I don't know. I mean, I'm always so grateful for anyone. Whenever I see that, I still get surprised. I still, I've been doing it a while now, but I still get surprised. I still get shocked, and I still love it. I mean, my favorite one, when a bunch of soldiers, when they were over during the war in Iraq, posed with a picture all holding my book, and they had made a sign saying Coben Book Club Baghdad branch, and held it up, and that was really, really special for me. I've had several, at least 3 presidents that are still alive who have contacted me that they've read the books. Hillary Clinton's read the books, mentioned in an article. So all of those things from every person who reads it to me is a universe of a reader, and it's just, it's still so cool. It's still so cool.
Harlan Coben, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks.
I'm not the only one. There are more.